You know that feeling when your partner seems to pull back every time you get closer? But then they do these specific things that make you wonder if maybe, just maybe, they're fighting feelings they won't even admit to themselves. Dating someone who's emotionally guarded can feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells. One day they're sweet and attentive, the next they're distant and cold. It's honestly exhausting. But here's something I've learned after years of studying relationships and talking to countless people in similar situations. When avoidant partners start developing real feelings, they don't suddenly transform into romantic comedies' heroes. Their signs of love are way more subtle than that. Today, I want to walk you through what it actually looks like when someone with avoidant tendencies starts falling for you. Some of these might completely surprise you. Why avoidant people love differently. People with avoidant attachment didn't just wake up one day and decide to be difficult. Usually, their childhood taught them that depending on others leads to disappointment. Maybe their caregivers were unreliable, or previous relationships burned them badly. So their brain developed this protective mechanism. If I don't get too attached, I can't get hurt. Makes sense, right? But here's what's fascinating. Research shows these people don't actually feel love any less intensely than the rest of us. They just express it in completely different ways. It's almost like they're speaking another language, and most of us never got the translation guide. Imagine someone who's terrified of water, but still jumps in to save you from drowning. That's what love looks like for an avoidant person. Sign number 1, the tiny detail share. Forget waiting for deep, vulnerable conversations about their past trauma. That's not happening anytime soon. Instead, pay attention to the random little things they start mentioning, like how they hate the sound of Velcro, or that they always eat the marshmallows in Lucky Charms first, or that they had a teacher in 3rd grade who wore the same purple sweater every Friday. These details might seem completely meaningless to you, but for someone who usually keeps everything private, sharing anything personal is actually a big deal. They're basically testing whether you're a safe person to trust with pieces of their inner world. I know it sounds silly, but I once heard from someone whose partner never shared anything about his day. Then one random Tuesday, he mentioned seeing a billboard that reminded him of a vacation his family took when he was 12. She almost didn't think anything of it until she realized that was the first childhood memory he'd ever shared with her. Sign number 2. They become weirdly reliable. Don't expect roses and love letters. When avoidant people start catching feelings, they show it through consistency instead of romance. They'll actually text you back in a reasonable amount of time. They remember you mentioned having a dentist appointment and ask how it went. They start showing up exactly when they say they will, which might not sound like a big deal, but for someone whose instinct is to keep one foot out the door, reliability is huge. Think about it. Their whole nervous system is probably screaming at them to create distance and protect themselves, but they're choosing to show up anyway. That's love in action, even if it doesn't come with a soundtrack and slow motion running through a field. Research backs this up too. Studies show that avoidant individuals express care through dependable actions rather than emotional words or grand gestures. Sign number 3. Jealousy they can't quite hide. This one's interesting because avoidant people usually act like they couldn't care less about your other relationships. They're masters of the, "oh, that's cool, whatever" response. But when they're developing feelings, little cracks start showing in that cool exterior. Suddenly they're asking seemingly innocent questions about your coworker who texts you a lot. They have opinions about friends they never cared about before. They might even start randomly showing up places where they know you'll be with other people. The key difference is they'll try really hard to play it off as no big deal. They won't throw jealous fits or make demands, but you might catch them in moments where their poker face slips just a little. One woman told me her boyfriend started developing very strong opinions about her study group partners. He'd make little comments like, "oh, is that the guy who always needs help with everything?" It took her a while to realize he was actually feeling threatened but trying to hide it. Sign. Number 4. Building your secret world together. This happens so gradually you might not even notice at first, but avoidant partners who are falling for you start creating these little pockets of shared experience. Maybe you develop a routine of getting coffee from the same place every Saturday morning, Or you start watching a specific show together every week and it becomes your thing. Or they start cooking the same meal whenever you come over because they know you love it. What they're really doing is creating emotional safety through predictability. These shared rituals become incredibly precious to them, even if they'd never admit it out loud. I remember reading about someone whose avoidant girlfriend suggested changing their regular hiking spot, and he got unexpectedly upset about it. Later, he realized those weekly hikes had become this sacred space where he felt connected to her without having to talk about feelings. Sign number 5. Future planning. Sort of. Avoidant people typically live in the moment because thinking ahead means considering commitment, which freaks them out. But when they're falling for you, they start making exceptions. It starts small. They mention a concert coming up next month that you both might like. They suggest trying that new restaurant sometime soon. They buy tickets to something happening in a few weeks. For someone who usually avoids making plans more than a few days out, this is actually significant. They're quietly saying, "I want you in my future," without having to have any scary conversations about it. Sign number 6. Letting you into their real life. Compartmentalization is an avoidant person's best friend. Work life, social life, family life, dating life, all kept in separate boxes that never touch. But when they're developing real feelings, those walls start coming down. Maybe they finally introduce you to a friend, or they invite you to something work-related, or they show you photos from their childhood, or they take you to their favorite spot that they've never shared with anyone else. Each introduction is like them saying, "You're becoming important enough to be part of my actual life, not just this separate dating compartment." Sign number 7. Your opinion actually matters. Independence is everything to avoidant people. They make their own decisions, solve their own problems, and definitely don't need anyone else's input on their choices. Except when they start falling for you, this changes. You might notice them asking what you think about a work situation, or wondering if you like their new haircut, or checking whether you think they should accept that job offer. They're not asking because they can't decide for themselves. They're asking because they're starting to see you as part of their team. Sign number 8. Physical closeness on their terms. Touch can be tricky for avoidant partners. Too much feels overwhelming, but they still crave connection. When they're falling for you, they start initiating physical contact in ways that feel safe to them. Maybe they reach for your hand during movies, or they give longer hugs when you're leaving, or they start sitting closer to you on the couch than they used to. The crucial part is that they're the ones initiating it. If someone else tries to hug them, they might still tense up. But when they choose to reach for you, that's them saying, "I want to be close to you," in their own language. Sign number 9. They remember everything. This one surprised me when I first learned about it. Avoidant partners can seem like they're not really listening during emotional conversations, but when they're falling for you, they're actually absorbing every detail. They'll bring up something you mentioned weeks ago that you'd forgotten about. They know your schedule better than you do. They remember your friends' names after hearing them once. They ask about things you were worried about last month. It's like they're building a detailed map of who you are and what matters to you, even if they don't always know how to respond in the moment. Sign number 10. Emotional cracks start showing. This is the big one. Avoidant people work incredibly hard to keep their emotions under control. But when they're falling for you, that emotional armor starts developing weak spots. You might catch them getting unexpectedly moved by a movie, or they might get disproportionately frustrated about something minor, or they have a moment of vulnerability that seems to surprise even them. These emotional moments often catch them completely off guard. They might immediately try to change the subject or brush it off. but the fact that their feelings are breaking through their usual defenses means something significant is happening. The hardest part: the push-pull cycle. Here's what makes this so challenging. As avoidant partners feel themselves getting attached, their fear often intensifies. The closer they get to you, the more their brain starts sending alarm signals. So they might pull back right after a really great day together. They might pick a fight when everything feels too good. They might suddenly become really busy when you've been spending lots of time together. This isn't about you or anything you did wrong. This is their nervous system trying to protect them from what feels like danger, emotional intimacy. Understanding this pattern can save both your sanity and your relationship. What you shouldn't do. When you start recognizing these signs, resist the urge to point them out or push for more. Comments like, "I love that you're opening up more," or "you seem less afraid of commitment," will probably send them running. Even though you mean well, this kind of observation makes them feel exposed and vulnerable, which triggers their avoidance mechanisms even more. Instead, just quietly appreciate these signs for what they are: small acts of courage from someone learning to love despite their fears. The beautiful reality. The most incredible thing about avoidant partners falling for you is how meaningful it is when they finally get there. These aren't people who fall easily or often. If they're showing these signs, you've somehow created enough safety for them to start lowering their defenses. It might not look like movie love. There probably won't be dramatic declarations or elaborate romantic gestures, but there's something incredibly powerful about someone choosing to stay close to you when everything in their history is telling them to run. Their love is steady rather than dramatic, consistent rather than overwhelming. It's like having a reliable campfire instead of fireworks. It might not be as flashy, but it'll keep you warm for years. If you're seeing several of these signs in your partner, there's a good chance they're falling harder than they know how to express. The key is patience and understanding that they show love differently than you might expect. They might not say, "I love you" first, but they'll show up for you every single day. They might not want to analyze feelings, but they'll remember every important detail about your life. They might not be ready for big relationship talks, but they'll start quietly planning small futures with you. Love doesn't always look the way we think it should. Sometimes it's quiet and careful and takes time to fully develop. But when an avoidant partner chooses you, when they fight their own protective instincts to be with you, that's